All right, ladies and gentlemen, so I am still sick as a dog, recovering from that stupid wedding I went to where I got like 3 viral infections. Um, well, for those of you who don't know, I'm suffering from like bronchitis, like upper lung infection. Really sucks. I wouldn't recommend it. But it's been over a week since I've made YouTube videos, and some of you guys actually pay me on Patreon now. So yeah. Anyways, I've been trying to make this video for you guys for quite some time. Basically, it's like my definitive leveling guide, particularly for classic World of Warcraft hardcore, but naturally anything that's going to work for hardcore very easily can work for non-hardcore. So I've tested basically everything at this point. I've tested stamina, spirit, everything. I've tested stamina, intellect, everything. I've tested stamina, strength, everything. What's the other one? There's one more I forget. Like a mix, like stamina, spirit, strength gear. And the only thing I haven't really tested is two-handed builds of any kind past level 40. Because when I was level 41, I said, to hell with this. Let's go do some AoE farming like every guide tells you to do. However, I have tested. I'm convinced that once you get Hammer of Wrath at level 44 with Stamina Spirit Gear, it's gonna rock, and it's gonna rock heavy. All right, so let's talk about this real fast. So I've tried to make this video a few times already, like I said. Every time I do, it ends up being way too long. It ends up being something stupid, like an hour and a half. So I'm going to break this video up into a few videos. This one's going to be the TLDR version, where I basically just cover everything in general, and I don't go into any real deep explanation of why things are the way that they are. So if you have a question or a question mark pops up in your head like, hey, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Just go to the next video. So in the next video, I will actually not only be talking very briefly about the types of rotations you're going to use as these various Paladin builds, but I'll be showcasing them. And then I should also be doing talents, hopefully. All right, so let's get this show on the road TLDR style. Just know that this is mostly for hardcore, but everything naturally translates over anyways. Okay. So as a Paladin, from level 1 to 20, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get yourself one of these two weapons here, either a Driftwood Club or a Defias Rapier. These are the fastest one-handed weapons possible. There aren't a lot of other options for fast one-handed weapons. Trust me, you're going to want to stick with fast one-handed weapons. You're also going to want to get a full set of green gear of any stats as long as there's stamina on it. This is more of a hardcore thing, but as long as it has stamina on it. Mail gear, obviously, and cheap off the auction house. Why is this? Because the most important stat while you're leveling this early on is actually armor. All the other stats do not matter. And the simplest explanation for this is because your built-in spirit regeneration at these lower levels is so high that you're basically already a stamina spirit geared paladin minus the armor and minus a little bit of extra stamina, which is why all we're focusing on is getting a green gear set at level 10 and level 10, level 11, somewhere around there, and all we care about is the armor. We don't care about anything else. The next thing you do is that you do not upgrade your gear at all until level 20. There's no point in upgrading your gear until you're level 20. You're going to think there is because you're going to see all the stats you can gain from it. Absolutely doesn't matter. Just trust me on this. Okay, so why do we want... the exception to this, of course, is that we will be upgrading the shield quite regularly. Like every 3 or 4 levels, we'll upgrade the shield. But again, we do not care about any of the stats on the shield. Just get the cheapest thing you can possibly get your hands on and make sure it has a ton of armor. Why is this? Well, every time you put on a shield as a paladin, you basically go up plus 60% armor. So you can either upgrade a ton of your gear in order to gain an armor, or you can just upgrade your shield. Just focus on upgrading the shield. All right, sweet. Why are we using these damn fast one-handed weapons and we're never upgrading them? Okay, so there's 2 reasons for this. The first reason is that early on there's a bunch of little benefits that you get to these really fast weapons. The first benefit is that it's very easy for you to level up a character to level 5, make him a blacksmith, and then have him make sharpening stones or weight stones for these fast one-handed weapons. That also synergizes really well if you are ever using Seal of the Crusader, right? Because that'll increase the weapon attack speed by an additional 40%. It's actually a sizable increase in your weapon's DPS at the very early stages of the game. As time goes on, however, these weapons get more and more out of date, and you're going to be thinking that it's a good idea to upgrade them. But there's a number of things that don't really compute all that well with it. So, for example, by the time you're level 18, you might think it's insane to have a one-hander that's a level 11 weapon. But at level 18, that's when you get Seal of Righteousness rank 3. And then at level 20, but then you're going to upgrade your weapon at that point, that's when you get an additional rank of Seal of the Crusader. So if you don't know, all right, so let me show you guys the rotations here. So your normal rotation, your type 1 normal rotation is to judge Crusader on the target and then to immediately activate Seal of Righteousness, whatever the rank is. And then if you have Consecration, you fit Consecration here. But then you just beat on the target for a long period of time and you let Spirit Regeneration take its course. Then right before the mob dies, or a little bit before the mob dies, just in case you're wasting a critical strike of Judgment of Righteousness, you judge Righteousness into them. The mob will have like 5% life left. Then you reseal Crusader immediately. You beat that mob to death. You move on to the next mob. You start beating on the next mob with Seal of Righteousness, and you rinse and repeat the process. Later on, when you get Hammer of Wrath, Wrath gets plugged in here, and if you're fighting undead, Exorcism gets plugged in here to basically pull the next mob. That's your standard rotation. Your quick type rotation is when you're killing the mob super quickly. We basically chuck a Seal of the Crusader out the window, but we use an almost identical rotation. All right, so why is this a thing? Well, Seal of Righteousness basically does, damn it, this is supposed to be the TLDR version. Seal of Righteousness does X amount of damage per second, regardless of weapon speed. So whether you're swinging a 1 second speed weapon or you're swinging a 10-second speed weapon, God forbid, it's going to do the exact same amount of DPS. The thing that changes there, however, is that there is a built-in spell power ratio to Seal of Righteousness that is there regardless of weapon speed. And just know that Seal of Righteousness rank 3 is like 19% spell power ratio for a one-hander, and then all the other ranks are basically 10% spell power ratio for a one-hander. So what that means is, round about level 18, when these stupid, well, early on, it's worth a lot of damage. Like, for example, it'll jump from my SOR rank 2 will do, at level 14 or something, it was like 3 damage base. But if I judge Crusader, it spikes up to like 8 damage. And I'm like, damn, all right, that's a lot of increase in damage. Not to mention the judgment damage, obviously. But by the time you get to rank 18, you just want the fastest one-handed weapon possible. There's just nothing better. The next thing you know, the thing goes from doing 6 damage to like 21 damage a hit. You just want the fastest one-hander you can possibly get your hands on. Pretty gross. The other advantage of using one-handers over two-handers is not only do you get to save a lot of money on not upgrading your gear, because all you need to do is upgrade your shield. Because you are wearing a shield early on, the next thing you know, you take a lot less damage, which means the stamina, spirit regeneration stuff can really do its job. I'll show a little showcase of this here in a second. But that's life level 1 to 20. If you've never tried it, if you think I'm crazy, I swear to God, just go do it. It's absolutely amazing. Pick yourself up a Defias Rapier, get level 10, level 11 green gear. Get yourself some sharpening stones and just follow the rotation, and you'll be like, "What the hell? What have I been doing my entire life? This is how you're. This is actually how you're supposed to play Paladin. This is ridiculous." All right, cool. So from level 20 to level 34, what do you do? All right. So the first thing you got to do is you got to decide what kind of Paladin you want to be. Do you want to be a Stamina, Intellect, Spirit Paladin? Do you want to be a stamina spirit paladin, or do you want to be a stamina strength paladin, which is really gross. Highly advised you never be a stamina strength paladin unless you're just doing it for fun. And if you are being a stamina strength paladin, I'm going to punch you if you're not doing your damnedest to be a stamina strength spirit paladin, because there's a lot of gear out there that has both stamina strength spirit, like all the silvered bronze gear and whatnot. So I do have a video on this. The video is titled PvE 1v1 Mob Farming Paladin TLDR blah 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 blah. But basically it talks about the different type of paladins, their kill times, like who's amazing, who sucks, blah 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 blah. This is information is a little bit out of date. The stamina spirit, the of the whale gear, actually has equal to or an often better kill times than the AoE farming paladin if you're farming the right mobs at the right level. So for example, if you find undead mobs and you're able to kill them, the stamina spirit paladin will blow the AoE paladin out of the water in kill times. He becomes the fastest leveling paladin in the entire game. This only gets worse when they get Hammer of Wrath at level 44, which we'll be talking about here in a second. And you might be like, okay, well, where the hell do I go to farm those undead mobs? And I just point to this list here, and it's like I actually found all the undead and demon mobs that you can level on, and what you can farm there for stuff, you know, blah 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 at level. Go kill them. But you're gonna need to use the fast rotation, because they'll die in like 15 seconds. It's actually kind of ridiculous. All right, let's see here. Right. So you got to decide what kind of paladin you want to be. The stamina intellect paladin is easily the probably the most well-rounded and most giga chad of the paladins. What does he look like specifically? He's got most of his gear is of the eagle gear, stamina intellect gear. But he'll put on, like, 4 or 5 pieces of spirit gear. What's awesome about this paladin in general is that he can do everything. He can heal in dungeons, he can tank, he can DPS. He's just kind of a Chad. The downside to him, however, is that he's quite expensive and a little bit difficult to build, especially on like a hardcore server. Not to mention he can be a little annoying and a little boring, because he's not super well geared. Like hyper specialized for like questing, or like he's not a 1v1 build, if that makes any sense. Is he good 1v1? Absolutely. He's definitely the second best 1v1 paladin in the game, like period and end of story. Don't come at me with that strength, stamina, seal of command stuff. I've made entire videos. I'll wreck you on that. We got to use a two-hander. The problem, but you have to drink, whereas the stamina spirit paladin is just he's a machine. All right, but you got to decide. Highly advised that you just go stamina spirit. For level 20 to 30, and for level 34 to 41, just go spirit. It's only at level 41 you have to decide whether you're going to be an AoE paladin, and of course I have it right down here. Right, you got to decide if you're going to be an AoE paladin or not. And if you decide to be an AoE paladin, you're going to be a stamina intellect spirit paladin, but you can make that decision at level 40, blah 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 blah, because that's when you get plate mail, right? So before level 40, highly advised you play the stamina spirit paladin build, and that's regardless of what talent points you are using. Okay, so once you've decided what kind of paladin you want to be, hint, hint, be stamina spirit, you frickin' monkeys, you want to actually use a two-hander, because there's not a lot of really good fast one-handers for a long time. You want to use a blue two-hander off the auction house, and you ideally want it to be a fast two-hander. So you can see over here I have it written down that fast two-hander will increase your DPS by about 11%. Which is kind of a big deal at these early levels. If you're playing on hardcore, you can very easily stay sword and board for added protection. You're just going to level slightly slower, if that makes any sense. But you'll be super hard to kill. It's great for protection. I'm going to be leveling in this level range as soon as possible, sword and shield all the way, basically. We have a special note here. At level 33, you do get a Knightly Longsword. Level 33 Knightly Longsword. It's like the fastest one-handed weapon in the game. You can put on whatever enchant you want to, but typically you want to put the Badlands, like Blazing enchant on it for AoE farming purposes. Basically, if you can't get your hands on a flurry axe, this is the best weapon in the entire game for AoE farming. For AoE farming Paladin. So it'll be a weapon you use even when you're at level 60. You'll be using a damn knightly longsword. It's actually pretty gross. The only exception to this might be there's some I forget. It's like a blue one, but you don't want to do a lot of damage with your weapon as when you're AoE farming. So the lack of damage on the thing is actually a benefit for AoE farming. Okay, cool. So be Stamina Spirit, level with a two-hander, ideally, or be safe with a one-hander. Do your normal rotations. The important thing to note here is that you're still using Seal of Righteousness rank 3. You are not deviating from Seal of Righteousness rank 3. Why? Because it's for two-handers. It's got 8%. It's got 20% spell power ratio compared to the 12% that every other rank has. And what is it? For the one-handers, yeah, it's still like 19% spell power ratio for like 10% of the rest of them. So just you're using Seal of Righteousness rank 3. You're using the most up-to-date Judgment of Crusader for its spell power. Don't believe me? Go try it. You'll fall in love with it instantaneously. All right, moving on. Oh, ideally, you should have some extra spell, like some talent points or stuff going on in this level range to help you turn your mana into damage. So, for example, Consecration is really amazing to have at level 20 because it's one way you can turn mana into damage. Prot doesn't really have anything that can turn mana into damage. Ret doesn't really have anything that can turn mana into damage other than, judging more often. But one thing you can do to turn mana into damage from all that stupid Stamina Spirit gear is to put Seal of Might on yourself as opposed to Seal of Wisdom if you have to. However, by far the best thing to do for all the Paladins is, if you're going Stamina Spirit build, is literally just go find some damn undead or some damn demons to use Exorcism on. If you can use Exorcism with Stamina Spirit gear, you become the fastest leveling Paladin in the entire game outside of dual leveling or spamming dungeons. It's actually completely ridiculous how fast and efficiently you kill mobs if you have Exorcism, because it is an instant cast, like 1-to-1 damage to spell power ratio, blah 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 blah. Don't believe me? Go do it. It's absolutely insane and amazing. Stamina Spirit gear, two-hander or one-hander, Exorcism the crap out of the mobs. It is beautiful. All right, level 33, level 34 and onwards, things change slightly. Why is this? Because your Seal of Righteousness rank 3 is actually starting to get out of date, which means that you can swap over to Seal of Righteousness rank 5, starts becoming super competitive. So, for example, in this level bracket, you want fast blue two-handers off of the auction house, basically. You can always pick up the fast two-handers off the auction house super cheap because nobody likes them, nobody wants them, except specifically Paladins, and the community hasn't caught on yet that they're actually valuable to Paladins, economically speaking. All right, Seal of Righteousness rank 5 changes things, however, because the next thing you know, you can use basically... damn it, I need to pause the video. All right, blow my nose, cough my guts out, gargle some water, and we are back. Where the hell was I? What I'm trying to explain to you is that at these higher levels, you stop using Seal of Righteousness rank 3 with two-hander specifically. And you start using your most up-to-date Seal of Righteousness, which in this case is going to be Seal of Righteousness rank 5, which, as you can see here, you get at level 34. You then get to start using two-handers of basically any speed. Fast, slow, you don't care anymore. And you're still ideally want a fast two-hander for basically RNGesus reasons. But it doesn't matter. You can use the slow two-handers. You can use the fast two-handers. You literally don't care anymore. Seal of Righteousness rank 5 is just basically going to be what you're doing. 6, 7, and 8 from that point onwards. For the fast two-handed weapons, or for the fast one-handed weapons, or the super fast two-handed weapons, like a super fast two-handed weapon would be like 2 point something, like 2.0, 2.1. For example, the Crowd Manual Pummeler, which I do believe is like level 30, blue you get from Gnomergon. Even without any stats, that stupid thing is ridiculous at 2.0 speed, being a blue two-hander. Absolutely nuts. Later on, you get things like Destiny. The really fast ones are amazing. You might have to use Seal of Righteousness rank 3 rather than a more up-to-date seal. But it is what it is. For the one-handers, it's 3 all the way to the moon and back, just because of the spell power ratio and the attack speed is so quick. All right, so at level, again, you're still a Stamina Spirit Paladin during this level range. So at level 41, you have to make a decision. And really, you have to make this decision prior to being level 40, because that's when the mail to plate transition takes place, right? So you're preparing for this ahead of time. So at level 40/41, you have to decide whether you're going to be an AoE Paladin or a single target Paladin for the rest of the game. What do those Paladins look like? One of them is a Stamina Intellect Paladin with maybe some Stamina Spirit gear built into it, and the other one is a Stamina Spirit Paladin, like all the way. Like every piece of gear is Stamina Spirit gear practically. Maybe you mix in some Owl gear, which is Intellect Spirit gear, but that's about it. Okay, why is this? What are the advantages and the disadvantages? Well, at level 41, that's when you can have both Consecration and Blessing of Sanctuary, and the next thing you know, you are an AoEing monster if you want to be. The advantage to the Stamina Intellect Paladin is that you're one of the fastest leveling Paladins in the entire game. Not one of, like, usually you're the fastest leveling Paladin in the entire game, unless the Stamina Spirit Paladin is played correctly in the right areas using Exorcism, blah, 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 blah. But you're one of the fastest, and you can do it all. You can tank, you can heal, and you can DPS. Anything you want to do in the game, you can do in the game, and you are super hard to kill. Holy fuck, do you not die as a Stamina Intellect Paladin. The single target Paladin, on the other hand, is a little bit nicer. You can have fun in the game as a single target Paladin. The only thing you can't do is you can't heal in dungeons, but you can do everything else. You can tank just fine, spectacularly, in fact. You can DPS just fine. Questing is absolutely amazing, because that's mostly like 1 or 2 mobs at a time, which is where Stamina Spirit Paladin absolutely shines. You can just, life is just a lot of fun in the game as a Stamina Spirit Paladin, whereas a Stamina Intellect Paladin, while you can do everything, the most painful thing about him is fighting the damn gear. The good thing about the Stamina Intellect Paladin, however, is that he does use a shield. So what he'll use a two-hander for single target, but he uses a shield at all other times. And the good thing about that is you can actually let your Stamina Intellect gear get rather out of date as long as you keep updating the shield, because again, all you care about is armor, right? And you get most of your armor from your shield, so just roll with it. So that's one way to make him significantly cheaper, is you don't have to update your gear all that often. Whereas the Stamina Spirit Paladin probably needs to update his gear a little bit more often than you would like. At level 44, life changes for every Paladin in the entire game, because the next thing you know, you have Hammer of Wrath. And Hammer of Wrath is basically a better than 1-to-1 mana to damage ratio ability that every Paladin can use on every mob in the game. So now it's no longer like I need to find undead mobs to use Exorcism on. I need to have Consecration to be able to turn mana into damage. I need to be able Holy Shield or this or that or whatever. No. Everybody has Wrath, and that changes things quite significantly. Pause the video again. Yeah, you can already see this video is getting quite long. All right, so that pretty much sums up everything all the way till level 60. The 1 to 20 is by far the most specific, and then from that point on, it's basically like Stamina, Intellect, Spirit, or Stamina, Spirit, and then blah, 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 blah. There's probably a little bit in here that I'm missing, but I can't quite remember what it is. I'll bring it up later if I notice anything, but it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Let's talk about the rotations real fast. We did already talk about the rotations. Quick kill rotation is what happens when you're killing mobs like way too quickly. So if you're fighting undead mobs, you're going to find out that you're killing them way too fast. The AoE rotation is a little, it's actually dirt simple, but for some reason people want a damn explanation for it. you literally use the fastest one-handed weapon you can possibly get your hands on. So that would be a knightly longsword. You have a shield. You have the right spec for it. Otherwise, things are going to get frisky. You run around gathering up between 4 to 5 mobs. You use rank 1 consecration to gather up the 4 to 5 mobs. Why? Because the sheer act of you putting down a rank 1 consecration on the ground means you can keep every mob from running away from you like on the cheap while you're running around like an idiot trying to gather them up. Not that hard once you learn how to do it. My favorite thing to do is to run it like the nearest mob, stun him, throw down a consecration on him, and then just go gather up a bunch of other mobs and yeah, AoE them down. It's no big deal. You can't. You don't. It should be obvious, but you don't want to grind AoE grind on mobs that are ranged too terribly much. You can grind. You can pull a pack with at least one range mob in it, as long as that range mob is like the last mob you're physically getting into melee with, and he's the first one that's going to die. There's some other techniques for gathering up ranged mobs. So, for example, if you have bubble available, you can aggro like 20 range mobs and then bubble, and they'll all run up to you and start meleeing you, which is kind of funny, but it is what it is. And so you can use that to AoE farm range mobs. But do what it is. All right, so you want to use basically Seal of Wisdom and Judgment of Wisdom at all times. You want the fastest one-handed weapon possible. Why is that? The Seal is PPM, which means you're going to get 1 proc per 4 seconds of swing time, regardless of swing speed. But the Judgment is a flat proc rate of 50% per weapon swing, making the fast one-handed weapons going to give you back the most mana possible. All right, so basically you just judge Wisdom on a mob. You start leeching mana from them. You put down a bunch of consecrations. At some point, you're going to have to judge Seal of Wisdom on another mob. This is usually what I do. And then you're going to have to bop or bubble. Ideally, you'll downrank the bop or you'll downrank the bubble, so it's only like an 8-second bop or like an 8-second bubble. That way you don't lose the Judgment of Wisdom. But there's other rotations you can do where you bubble first and then you just judge Wisdom later. It's not that big of a deal. But you use bop and use bubble on your pulls so you can heal. And specifically what you want to do is usually you want to bandage heal. It really helps with your gear, if at all possible. It's totally worth 1 bandage to kill 4 or 5 mobs from a gold perspective. Just relax, right? So yeah, you'll just throw down... use bop or bubble to heal yourself to full, no problem. Consecration should be on the ground at all times. So usually what happens is I will bop myself, I will heal, I'll put a holy light into myself, I'll throw another consecration down, and then I'll start bandaging, and then when the bop wears off, the bandage is lost, obviously, because you get punched, but it's not that big of a deal. This is the heal yourself part. And then you got to reseal Wisdom, and then you just consecrate and heal as necessary until everything dies. It's a very simple rotation, but the key and critical element here is bop, bubble, bandage, bop, bubble, bandage, bop, bubble, bandage, and do not pull unless you have bop or bubble on off of cooldown. How hard is that to do? It's not hard at all. Bops on a 3-minute cooldown and bubbles on a 5-minute cooldown, and AoE farming takes upwards of like 2 minutes in the grand scheme of things to kill like 5 mobs. Yeah, it's nothing, if that makes any sense. Alright, well, I'm going to end the video here. I'll try to keep it short as a TLDR, and I'll get out the second part where I can actually show you guys the rotations and and the talent trees. The TLDR and the talent tree is you just want to find some way to be able to turn mana into damage. Like, you just want to be able to turn mana into damage. You don't care about anything else. So that means immediately going down to consecration and then going into the prot tree. That means going down to consecration and continuing to going down the holy tree. If you want to go all in on deep ret, That means that rather than see a blessing of wisdom on yourself, you're going to be putting blessing of might on yourself, and you're very, very, very much going to want to find undead mobs or demons to use exorcism on, if at all possible, because you don't have any other way to turn damage in mana into damage that early on, completely negating the purpose of the Stamina Spirit build. For those of you who are still like, why the hell am I using Stamina Spirit over Strength? The TLDR on that is that 7 points of strength equals 1 white DPS. However, that's before armor. So once you factor in armor, it's closer. Not just armor, but like hit and miss and all that stuff, right? God help you. The next thing you know, it's only worth like 0.6 DPS. Conversely, 8 points of spirit is worth 5 MP5, assuming you're not casting ever, right? But if you follow the rotations, it's worth more, like 70, 60. It's like 2/3 of that. So it'll be worth somewhere in the vicinity of 3 MP5 for 8 spirit. And then the next thing you know, if you can find a way to turn your mana into damage at a 1-to-1 ratio, the next thing you know is that the spirit gear is it's not out DPSing. Actually, it is. Who are we kidding? It just straight up starts out DPSing strength builds on Paladin. It's actually kind of nuts. So again, find stuff you can consecrate on. If you've never tried it, go try it. It's actually absurd. All right, well, I'm going to end the video here, and Day of Soul, boys.